Sir Graham Lowe is regarded as the greatest rugby league coach that Aotearoa has ever produced. He is the only non-Australian to coach a State of Origin team, winning with Queensland in 1991. The former Otahuhu head coach would have success with Wigan in England. His next move would be with the Manly Sea Eagles, where he coached many Kiwi players and a young physical player called Ian Roberts.
Tackle from Roberts, crunch, and he screams at him to get up and play it.
In 1995, Ian would make a public announcement that he was gay, becoming the first high-profile Australian athlete and the first male rugby player in the world from the rainbow community. What were the challenges for you coaching Ian Roberts at the time, knowing that he was gay but not openly?
Yeah, well, I coached Ian right from when he was an 18-year-old, I think 18, might have been 19, and I knew very, very early that he was gay. But there was no challenges. There was no challenges whatsoever. And I mean, it was quite obvious for all to see, really, Ian's way. But that didn't bring any challenge whatsoever, because I respected him as a player. He respected me as a coach. All I was looking for was for him to perform and really give me 13 Ian Robertses on the field any day whatsoever, and I'd coach them the rest of my life.
So you used to be the Manly coach. What are your thoughts on what's played out in the past week?
I think it's been really sad and badly handled.
Yeah.
I think, there was obviously, when the idea came up to wear this jersey and help promote the whole, that whole situation, the inclusiveness and whatnot, there was probably a lot of enthusiasm, but everything happened too quickly. They forgot to, I think it seems they forgot to engage the most important people of the whole lot, which were the players to start with, and that probably started it off. So I think it's poorly handled in some ways by Manly, and then Manly found themselves in a totally no-win situation.
How would you have reacted in that whole situation?
To tell the truth, I would have been a little bit disappointed with those players. I totally respect everyone's religion, but I don't think religion should play a part in sport at all.
But for some of those boys, faith is their identity, it means everything to them, so that's what they would say.
I understand that. I understand that fully, and I respect them for it as well. But I also have a lot of support and sadness for many young people who are not, who may think they might be gay or they're not. There'll be a lot of confusion with a lot of those young people now, and for whatever message was supposed to get across, it's all got muddled. And I think the losers in all this are the young people who really are struggling to understand their own identity.
What does this do for team morale, for Manly?
I've been involved with rugby league for 60 years, and through all that time there's always been some were Christian and some weren't. I've never ever had an issue whatsoever. And I just wonder if these 7 boys that took the stance that they took, and that in itself takes a lot of courage, but I just wonder if they would have played alongside a man like Ian Roberts, who did have the courage and is the only one that's come out and said he was gay. I wonder if they would have played a game of football alongside Ian Roberts, because you couldn't play alongside a better man, a better principled man. It just happens to be Ian's gay. So you don't have a choice of whether you're gay or not. You either are or not, but you have a choice of whether you can bring religion into the thought. And it's the religious side that's got me, I just think it's been used very, very poorly.
Is it possible to be inclusive of everyone?
It's not impossible at all, because the language of sport, to me, is the most special language in the world, because the language of sport has the strength and the ability and the connection to get countries who are at war with one another to stop for a moment and play a game of soccer or tennis or something else, but just by that language of sport, and then go back to what they were doing. So that language of sport can be used to great advantage, so it's inclusive of everyone and how everyone thinks.
What would be your message to those 7 players that decided not to play?
I feel a little bit sorry for them, really, and I think that while they're together, they'll be, they'll feel pretty strong together, but there'll be times when they're on their own, and doubt will come into their actions. Whether they should, you know, they've got to be strong. They need to be able to cope with the comments they're going to get. So they just have to be strong, and they've also got to be understanding. They expected everybody to understand their view when they took their action. Well, now the shoe's on the other foot, but they're not. They shouldn't be penalised. They made their decision. It took strength on their part to make that decision, and I think that also time is a great healer of wounds. In some ways, I know this sounds very contradictory, but in some ways it's only a small thing that happened, but in other ways it's a massive thing that happened. You know, it's we've got to keep it in its perspective.